Now you genuine love and respect. They judged a book by its cover that day because it was you. Understanding God's plan. When your steps is ordered when you least expect it, they don't understand your plan. It wasn't meant for them to understand. When it comes to God's plan, when it came to you, to understand your worth, when you didn't shortchange yourself to see your growth. You know, to become your best self vision of yourself, not to dim your light when God hasn't dimmed the light within you. They don't understand that you're moving on God's timing and you mean what you say, you say what you mean. You ain't got to gaslight nobody because you truly at peace with yourself. You ain't got to wear a mask because you understood God's plan, not to shortchange yourself to become victim to your trauma, your pain, but to better yourself, to understand God's plan. And you chose your future. It wasn't easy overcoming those obstacles when finding yourself. But you was patient with yourself because God was patient with you. They didn't understand the obstacles that you had to come to become your best self vision of yourself, to self-reflect, to look in that mirror. To recognize at the end of the day the wounds that was installed within you. To show up for them. To heal them. To actually mean at the end of the day that, hey, I don't want to become victim to my trauma, my pain that they installed within me. Hurting yourself with words. Going in circles. You knew how I felt that day. When it came to communication, when it shortchanged yourself. You allowed trauma, toxic behavior, dysfunctional behavior to display in your life. You didn't want to live through that again. It was uncomfortable. You were shortchanging yourself. You wanted to better yourself, to understand God's plan. So they didn't understand when you chose yourself that day to become your best self vision of yourself. It wasn't an overnight process. It was a process within a process of you showing up for yourself to better yourself. They didn't understand how you overcame the trauma and the pain, how you smiled from the inside and it shows on the outside and you mean what you say without gaslighting nobody. You know, let alone gaslighting yourself because you real with yourself. That energy hit different. When you ain't got to wear a mask to be yourself. They don't understand how you overcame the trauma and the pain. It wasn't meant for them to understand. Because God understood the direction you was going that day. You walk by faith, not by sight. The energy hit different. When you're elevated, becoming your best self vision of yourself. You understood the blossom. You understood that your neighbor's going to judge a book by its cover, but you knew not to shortchange yourself when your neighbor didn't know they self-worth. To understand they need to stay in their own lane. And especially when you're not projecting negative energy on your neighbor. To have malicious intentions. When you're trying to become your best self vision of yourself. To understand God's plan. They wanted to antagonize your character, disrespect you, try to dim your light, but they couldn't dim your light because God hasn't dimmed the light within you. When you knew your worth, not to shortchange yourself when it came to communication, when it came to your neighbor that day. They gave up on you, they overlooked you, they even manipulated your character for a description that you truly wasn't, all because it was you that day. But you didn't allow that to stop you from becoming your best self vision of yourself when you meant what you said that day. That you wanted to become your best self vision of yourself, not to allow your trauma, your pain to hold you back. Because you knew how it felt that day when they gave up on you. They overlooked you. They manipulated your character for a description that you truly wasn't. When you became your best self vision of yourself, to understand God's plan, that there were better days ahead. When they didn't dim the light within you, when they thought they did. Only to realize that they only played in their own face when they came across a real one. A child of God. The one who ain't got to wear a mask to tune into themselves. The one who shows up for themselves in the most healthiest way. To understand at the end of the day, I choose my future, not to shortchange myself. I understood my wounds that was endured within me when it came to trauma and pain. And who gave up on me during my process when it came to elevate, become my best self vision of myself. They wasn't supposed to be part of my plan because I understood God's plan when it came to me. That everybody's not supposed to be part of my journey. And that's okay. Because you know why? God sends the right people into your life that's going to genuinely respect you for who you truly are. God will send the right people into your life that's going to genuinely love you for who you truly are. With no malicious intentions, to psych you out your thought process, your freedom, your pockets, and your eyesight. And I say that respectfully. They're going to move accordingly. When it comes to respecting each other, that energy has difference, something that you're not used to. But you chose your future to understand God's plan. That there were better days ahead. When they didn't understand that God chose you that day to become your best self vision of yourself. When God hasn't dimmed the light within you. Now you're genuine love, respect. You matter, you're worthy. You know, having self-love for yourself, it's not a crime. And just because you don't understand how someone shows up for themselves in the most healthiest way, not to go back and forth with you with words of neighbor, because you're trying to antagonize somebody because they love themselves. Be mindful when judging a book by its cover, and I say that respectfully. It's the thought process to me, because it's not a crime when someone doesn't have to wear a mask and they real with themselves to understand that the trauma and pain that was endured within them, they didn't allow that to shortchange them when it came to their future. But they understood God's plan to recognize self-awareness, to recognize self-respect, to recognize self-love, and to know their self-value, to know their self-worth, not to shortchange themselves when it came to communication. When they self-reflect, to understand and be patient with their process, God is still patient with them. It wasn't an overnight process. It was a process within a process for them to heal themselves. So they understood what their pain and their trauma looks like when it came to their past. And they didn't want to relive that, neighbor. But they was patient with their process to understand self-love, to understand their communication. And it wasn't a crime for them to find themselves when everybody else went against them, try to kick them down. Because they found themselves in the most healthiest way. So when you find yourself, it's not shortchanging yourself. When you find yourself, loving yourself is the best love that you would give to yourself. That energy hit different. We are all not the same. Be mindful when you judge a book by its cover, and I say that respectfully. It's not a crime to love yourself and mean what you say without gaslighting yourself, because you're real with yourself. That energy hit different. When a real one walks into your life, they ain't got to wear a mask to tune into you at the end of the day, because they recognize who they truly are before they actually acknowledge you that day. But you judge the book by its cover. It's the thought process to me. Leave innocent people alone who's trying to elevate, become their best self version of themselves when they're in their own lane, minding their business. Trying to antagonize somebody is so unhealthy. It really is. Because someone loves themselves. Someone's at peace with themselves and they ain't gotta wear a mask to tune into themselves to respect you. Good day, bad day, misunderstanding day. They still know how to respect their neighbor and stay in their own lane, because they understood God's plan. Something that you can't get used to, neighbor, is staying in your own lane. It's called respect. It's the thought process, me. Be careful when you judge a book by its cover. You're only playing your own face, and I say that respectfully. God works in mysterious ways. Any negative energy actually return back to sender. Just because someone gave up on you, don't give up on yourself. Just because someone overlooked you, don't give up on yourself. You are genuinely loved by all the right people. You are genuinely respected by all the right people. And you deserve to be treated with respect 365 days with no malicious intentions to bring harm towards yourself or others around you. Protect your energy, because not everybody's deserving your time of your day. You matter and you are worthy. Protect your energy, because not everybody's deserving your time of your day. It's not a crime to love yourself, and never allow someone to dim your light within you, to allow you to feel like you got to question yourself, because you know how to respect yourself. You know your self-worth. And you have self-love for yourself, let alone self-respect for yourself. And you have the proper self-awareness when it comes to God's guidance. Because God hasn't dimmed the light within you. Because someone doesn't understand how you overcame the trauma and the pain. When you don't have malicious intentions to bring harm towards yourself or others around you. Regardless of your sexual orientation, your disability, your culture, your religion. It's called respect. And it's not a crime to love yourself. So never allow someone to allow you to feel like you got to question yourself or hurt yourself with words, because they don't see your worth that God installed within you. You matter, you're worthy. Never allow hate in disguise or person malicious intentions like your thought process you put in your pockets or your eyesight, because they have malicious intentions. I truly appreciate time to the genuine ones only. Have a safe day. Have a safe remaining week. Have a safe weekend. Have a safe remaining year. Have a safe remaining month. Protect your energy, because not everybody's deserving your time of your day. You matter. You are worthy. God has not given up on you. When it comes to healing, it would never be an overnight process. So when you look at someone becoming their best self vision of themselves, you don't understand what it took for them to become their best self vision of themselves. When it came to trauma and pain that was endured within them, being sexually assaulted as a child, discrimination, hate crime, sickness. You put a name to your book. Dysfunctional folks, domestic violence, and may went into their adulthood. You put a name to your book. It wasn't an overnight process. It would never be an overnight process. So never allow someone to psych you out your thought process and allow you to believe when it starts with healing, trauma, and pain, it would never be an overnight process. It's a process within a process. It's called respect, neighbor, because you don't understand someone's process when they showed up for themselves and they meant what they said, that they was real with themselves to be real with you. Something that you can't get in tune with is being real with yourself. It's a thought process to me. Remove that mask And be mindful when judging a book by its cover. And I say that respectfully, because I hope you find peace in your own lane one day. It's a thought process for me. Naya, genuine love, respect. Have a good day. I need a nap. That's the thought process for me.